To begin, we are going to draw a circle for the moon in the background. And you can go ahead and press down as hard as you want, as most of these lines are going to be covered by the black. I'm going to speed up this part because it took me quite a while to come up with the structure of the haunted house. There was lots of pausing in between as I figured it out, but I didn't speed it up, so fast that you won't be able to kind of follow along. So I'm just making like a little crooked haunted house. The windows are going to be a little bit crooked and a little bit off center, and that's kind of the look that I'm going for. So we're just going to pencil that in on the side and make it pretty tall so that it covers part of the moon. Once you are satisfied with the look of your haunted house, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. None of my lines are straight, and it's a haunted house, so the more crooked it is, the better. Once that's done, I am going to paint around it with the Bright Clear Violet by Magello Mission Gold. And as I was using my Magello Mission Gold from my Galaxy palette, it completely ran out. So I had to switch out to my actual Magello palette that's just full of all of my Magello colors and use the Bright Clear Violet from there until I refilled the one in my Galaxy palette. So we're switching palettes real quick using the same exact color, but you can see that right now the color is more saturated because it's not so watered down. Because of that, I'm going to go over the entire piece again with the Magello so that it all kind of has the same consistency or the same depth. Once I've gone over the entire piece again with the purple, and I do suggest doing this even if you don't have the problem that I did, because it gives it a little bit more of a deeper color once it dries. But while the paint is still wet, I am going to go in with some peacock blue and then just add little touches here and there. I'm not covering the entire sky. I really want some of that purple to peek through, but I am adding some peacock blue to give it a more spooky night vibe. You want to make sure that the background is fully dry before starting on the moon. If you don't, you will find that as you add water, some of the background will leak into the moon. And for this piece, we really don't want that because we are painting the moon a yellow-orange color. So once the background is completely dry, we're going to water the moon, and feel free to go over the pieces of the house that are in the moon, because once we add black to that, it's going to completely cover the orange and the yellow that we put on there. So wet the entire background. And once you have a nice saturation, a nice little sheen of color, you don't want it to be too wet, no puddles here. I'm gonna go in with the poppy and just drop some of that paint in. I am going to clean off my brush and then go back in and water down some of the edges. This is going to allow the paint to kind of seep into the other areas of the moon, and we're kind of helping it along. And after we have completely done that, then we're going in with a little bit of Cydonia. And from here on out, I'm just mixing the yellow and the orange until I am satisfied. So, you know, you don't have to, you can make it one color. You don't have to use these two colors. But I really wanted something that kind of popped out and to match the windows from the haunted house. When you are satisfied with your moon, then you can move on to the windows. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the moon. So the first thing I'm doing is adding a little layer of water in the windows of the haunted house, in all of them. And then I'm going to go in with poppy and just dot the color in. It doesn't matter if it goes outside of the line. Not a big problem, because again, we're covering that with black. So we are dotting in the yellow and then helping it spread along with a clean wet brush. Once you're done with the poppy, add a bit of Cydonia just in the center, and then again, push it out a little with a clean brush. Make sure that the moon and the windows are completely dry before adding in some splatter. So I'm gonna go with my smaller size 2 brush and really wet it. Put lots and lots of water on it, dip it into my Copic Opaque White, and then splatter some stars in the background. And the reason that I'm using a smaller brush is because I wanted a smaller splatter. I didn't want any big splotches of white along the background. I just wanted it to be very subtle, and using a smaller brush will help you achieve that. After you are satisfied with the splatter, then you can go in and start painting the foreground. So what I'm going to start with now is the house. So I'm painting it in Lamp Black by M. Graham, and that's a very, very black. And I'm still using the smaller brush. You can use the bigger brush in parts of it. You can alternate between the two. So if you notice this huge space on the bottom of the house that doesn't have any windows or anything, you can go ahead and use a bigger brush to cover that up quicker. The smaller brush is really only necessary when you're going along the sides of the house and along the windows. Once you are done with the house, don't forget to add the details on the window. Don't make them straight. Make them a little crooked. Make them off to the side, to give the haunted house a little bit of character, because we don't want the house to be all crooked and then the details on the windows to be like perfectly straight. We don't want that. Once I am done with the house and the windows, I'm just going to add like a little hill along the bottom. And you can make it big, you can make it tall, you can make it short, however you want. Now I'm going back to my smaller brush and I'm adding in a fence along the bottom. So in order to make this fence look a little bit more haunted, a little bit more spooky, we're going to add the posts in all different sizes. And when I am done adding the different size posts, I'm going to go in and add a couple of crooked ones in between. After that, I'm going to add the connecting parts of the fence. And again, I don't want to make them straight. So, I'm going in at angles. And since the fence posts are all different sizes, that really does help when you're making these parts of the fence. For the really little ones, I'll skip some of them and just connect the big ones. And that just gives it a look as if, part of the fence is broken. And now we're going to go in with a spooky haunted tree. I just kind of freehanded this one because, as you all know, I am not good with trees at all. So I just kind of freehanded this one, gave it a fatter trunk, and then some branches and things on top. Feel free to make yours as spooky as you want. And finally, to finish off this piece, we are going to add some bats in the sky. And again, these don't have to be really detailed because you're not going to be really viewing them close up. So what I did was I did an elongated V and did a little bat wing design along the bottom. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just a couple of little spikes along the bottom and like a little hint of a bat head. Again, it doesn't have to be, fancy. Practice on the ones outside of the moon first if you're having a little bit of trouble with this, such as, I did. And then by the time I went to paint the ones inside of the moon, which are going to be much more visible, I was better at them. So do it that way. Paint the ones in the dark areas first, and then try your hands at doing one or on top of the moon. But that's only if you struggle with it. Obviously, if you're great at making bats, then pay no mind to what I just said. Just go ahead and make them as you wish. To finish this piece up, if some of the white from the background is seeping through, just go over it one more time with dots of black, as I'm doing here on the house. And then after that, you're completely done. You have yourself a little spooky haunted scene. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.